Welcome to the HyperFast Agent Growth Show. Get real strategies, real results, and real estate them differently. Lead generation, team building, AI, and more from billion-dollar agents, best-selling authors, international speakers, and real estate coaches, Kerry Shull and Dan Lesniak. Let's dive in!
Welcome back to the HyperFast Agent Growth Show. We've got our top agent / loan officer panel today, and we are going to dive into some no BS, no frills, just straight talk tips to help you guys grow your real estate business and give you some updates in what's going on in the market and other real estate news. We've got Nick Bush, Karl Svendsen, and James Buckley here today. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
What's up?
All right. So the first month of 2026 is officially in the books. If you're in Northeast, you've experienced a lot of snow and school cancellations like we have. First question for the panel: what was your biggest success in real estate in January, in the first month of the year? Start with you, Nick.
I was hoping to piggyback off of everyone else. I think my biggest success in real estate in January was not necessarily transactional. It was more so from an operations standpoint. So like kind of figuring out where I need to go next in my business and where I'm going to grow, and realizing like what I need to hire for next. So I don't know if that's like the best answer to the question, but that's kind of where I'm at this year.
All right. So getting operations dialed in for the rest of the year. What about you, Karl?
I got the opportunity to help a really good friend of mine who runs his own business. He builds koi ponds. Great business. He can dig a really good koi pond. So if you need somebody for that, you let me know. But he is a member of a B&I group, and then there was a lender and a realtor on that B&I group. And when he went under contract on his house and got the estimate from the lender of the B&I group, he's kind of scratching his head because he's like, hey, I don't think I'm getting a fair deal here. And he called me, and long story short, we were able to strategically dissect the deal, save him 1.75% on the interest rate, and save him $8,000 in closing costs on a special bank statement loan for him as an entrepreneur. And now I'm the go-to guy for his CPA for all the business owners. It was incredible and made a difference for somebody that I care about.
All right. What are these koi pond owners doing in these cold winter months? How do they keep those things going?
He's got a plow, so he was plowing during the ice. But no, there's heaters in the koi ponds,
Okay.
and they all huddle in that little. I asked the same question.
Yeah, and if the blizzard gets to like ultra whatever levels and we lose power and food and water and all that, how good do those things taste, All right, well, we'll move on to James. What was your biggest January success?
I had some settlements. It was a pretty busy January compared to previous years, but I think my biggest success was yesterday. I did a sales mastermind. I led a sales mastermind, and it was my first time doing that with our group. And for me, that was my biggest success because, my personal identity is not how much can I get from other people and from a group or from a transaction or a relationship. It's how much can I give to it. And so that was a success for me, and it made me really happy to add value to other people in that way.
Yeah, and that was a great topic. It was on generating and converting leads from Google Business, Google Profiles. I forget the stats. You maybe spent like 16,000 on it over the last 3 years and generated what, like 300K of gross commission income off that?
Yeah, over the last 4 years, I spent 16,000, and it generated $357,000 of gross commission income.
Yeah, that's a great ROI. So, if you are listening to this, interested in it, reach out to James Buckley, connect with him on Instagram, and ask him about that because it was fascinating to see that kind of ROI. So my biggest two, I'll give two for January successes. Number one, brought in 2 listing referrals. So they total about 3 million in personal listings will be coming in the spring, both in the Northern Virginia area. And then we had our biggest amount of agents join our group at EXP for a January. We had 18 agents join. So yeah, I know we don't mention that a lot on the show, but if you are interested in why so many people are joining our group, it's because of things like the masterminds that we put on weekly that James led last week, and Nick Bush, by the way, led one a couple weeks ago as well. And it's not just about the splits, caps, and fees. It's about the leverage you get from collaboration, additional streams of income, uh, the training. So if you guys are interested in that, you can contact anybody on this show to learn more about that. But yeah, it was great to see 18 agents, mix of new and heavy hitters as well coming over. So next question for the panel. What's the number one thing most real estate agents know they need to do in their business, but they don't? And I'll start with Karl. I'll give you a break this time, Nick.
Self-management. You need to evaluate yourself. I mean, nobody else is able to manage you, right? So I think you need to take inventory at the end of every day and think about, okay, what did I do well? What could I have done better? And based on what my daily or weekly goals are from an activity standpoint, like, how did I do? And I think everybody really knows that they need to do it, but not many people do.
All right, James, what about you?
It's making phone calls. I was talking to an agent today, and they were saying, I think it'd be a better process if I like drove people to me with social media. And I said, social media is great. Definitely have that be a component. But you got to make phone calls. Make phone calls to people you know, make phone calls to people you don't know, and everything in between. Because that's what's going to lead to more business.
Well, even if you are driving them to you, at some point you have to have a phone call to transact with them, usually. Uh,
Exactly.
I don't think I've ever done a deal where I didn't have at least one phone call with someone. But uh, so if everyone knows it and it's that kind of obvious, why do you think they're not doing it?
People are uncomfortable putting themselves in a position where they can be rejected.
Hmm.
Um, and the mind is like a Jedi master when it comes to being comfortable, and we'll tell ourselves all sorts of things so that we can remain comfortable and happy in our brain that hasn't evolved yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think people are so willing to like get to a new level of performance or wealth or whatever you want to call it because they're just so locked into the comfort of where they're at now that the short-term comfort discomfort is something people have a hard time being comfortable with. So uh,
Dan, you used this phrase, I don't know, maybe it was a year ago, year and a half ago, but I love it and it stuck with me. You said everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. So everyone wants the great things that come from talking to a lot of people, but no one wants to go through that experience, potentially being rejected or uh, getting to the end of a call list and not having the opportunities.
yeah. What about you, Nick? What's your answer?
So I was prepared for to go first on this one. And
Yeah.
James basically took my answer. And Carl too,
Sorry.
kind of wanted the same thing, right? You have to prospect, you have to lead generate, whatever you like to call it, right? To trick your mind into doing it. You have to make phone calls, text people, email people, DM people on social media. You have to make videos about real estate and the real estate market and the houses that you're showing, um, and the listings that you have coming soon. You have to be your number one commercial online, and then you have to go find people who you can tell about real estate and let them know about your business. And I think that instead of us just saying, hey, call for 2 hours, like, figure out. So it's kind of, you think about what Carl said, right? It's like self-management. And then you have James, like, you have to call people, right? I think most people, they feel like, okay, well, I have to sit in front of sit at the phones or sit at my laptop for the first 2 hours in the day and lead generate. But real estate doesn't work like that, right? I had listing photos to do today. I got a haircut today. I have to go coach a basketball game today, right? Like, but in between that, I'm gonna have car time. I'll eat lunch at some point. I can text people and email people at lunch. Just as you're, find the number of people you need to talk to a day. That could be 5 people. That can be, for me, it's 14 people that I'm trying to connect with every day. And then work that into your day, right? Like, don't have to get stuck in front of your computer. Figure out the night before who you actually need to reach out to. And then just throughout the day, just start checking those boxes, and and reaching out to those people so you can win.
Yeah, so far a lot of stuff on managing, scheduling, having conversations. I think these are all great themes. Fits into what I was gonna say as well. I was at an event last week and met one of the agents in our group in Atlanta, and I didn't know this, but I thought he was selling like 30-ish homes a year, but last year he actually sold 50 as a solo agent, no buyer's agents on the team, and I was like, wow, you must be really listing heavy to do that many. And he's like, nope, it's 70% buyers. And I was like, wow. And he just has this great niche of short-term rental investors. And there's, a couple spots in Atlanta they buy from him, a couple spots up north from Atlanta near the mountains. And he just has built out incredible systems. He's got like TC supports. He's got drivers. A lot of times they're out of town buyers, and his drivers will go to the properties and do video tours. And so he's like essentially doing the showings without. So he just built out all these processes, and he's got like three young kids, I think, or maybe the third's on the way. And he's only working 40 hours or less a week, right? So that's like 4 deals a month, no buyers agents, mostly buyers. And I think it made me realize, wow, it all comes down to schedule, because most real estate agents probably think they're working 60 hours a week, and in reality, they're probably doing 10, maybe 20 hours of like real work, of the things that move the lever, of having those conversations. So for mine, it's really get clear about your schedule and build systems that allow you to have that 2 to 3 hours a day to have those, 14 conversations, like Nick said, or whatever your number is, right? And I think a lot of agents just aren't doing that.
I think just to add kind of in the same realm is, like how this guy figured out his systems is like figure out what actually makes you money, right? And try to outsource everything else. And so for me, something that I was at a listing today, meeting the photographer, and I was like, I'm making no money doing this. This is not what I need to be doing, right? But one of the first things that I cut was showing houses, right? I pay agents, to show houses for me, and most of them are, they're usually competent, they know what they're doing, right? But I mean, for me personally, I've realized like there's not a ton of value of me showing the house, right? Except if I want to build like relationships with my clients, but I do that throughout the deal in other ways. So figuring out like what actually makes you money and doing that will save you a ton of time, but it'll make the time that you're spending on your business profitable.
What are you paying to get the houses shown?
$50 a door.
$50 a door. And where do you find these people?
The EXP Slack channel.
Okay. So there's, yeah, through the brokerage, there's
Yeah.
people willing to do that.
Yep.
That's awesome. Are you doing that as well, James?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Nick, I'm so glad you brought that up. It was a game changer for my business, and frankly, my personal life. It's kind of heartbreaking to spend time away from your family when you're doing something that really isn't adding value that someone else can be doing. And so, yeah, that's been a huge benefit to my business and helped me scale up this past year.
I don't show houses either.
All right, next question here. What's your best tip for agents to get their next 3 listings? We'll start with James. Haven't started with you yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the same answer as last time. It's make those phone calls. You know, I'd
Who
love to
should they
say,
call?
who should they call?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would start with your sphere of influence. Usually people's sphere of influence isn't that big. So just call all those people, find them on Facebook, see what the last post on Facebook was. If it was them going on vacation, ask them how their vacation was, whatever. And then you get through that list pretty quickly for most people. And then, you can call expires for sale by owners, for rent by owners, etc. And you can call people that old leads that never transacted or said, "Oh, we're going to wait till next year." Um, and you can call people in a like using Vortex and Redex, call people around an open house or any home that's for sale and say, "Hey, I see you're in a 3-bedroom home. Do you want to be in a 5-bedroom home? I've got a really great one down the road. I'd love to show you." And if you want conversations, you can have conversations. You just got to make yourself a little bit uncomfortable while you do it. And you'll end the day with good connections and potential opportunities.
All right, Karl, what about you?
Learn the differences between a regular bridge loan and a cross-collateralized bridge loan and incorporate that into your listing presentation. If you're looking to get higher priced listings, you're going to have more competition on those listings. And most agents are not going to incorporate what a cross-collateralized bridge loan will provide a client in their listing presentation. And usually what I've found with the agents that I've worked with on this is that it's going to be a key differentiator that's going to set you apart and allow you to be able to have a higher chance of capturing that listing. Usually the biggest objection to a lot of people that already live in a home is, oh, well, I don't want to carry 2 mortgage payments at the same time. I don't like that uncertainty. Well, if you're able to kill that objection and move them into their new house, then you have a vacant property that you could spruce up a little bit. Much easier to sell a vacant home than it is with a client living in it most of the time. You're going to win at a much higher clip. So learn about the different types of bridge loans, put that as a tool in your tool belt, and learn the value propositions to present to prospective sellers.
This is gold right here. I did this at a meeting that I had 2 days ago with a seller, and I just connected Karl with that seller, and it's going to be really beneficial for them and help me help them.
So now they can buy their next house without selling their current one. That's what that allows them to do effectively?
Allows them to qualify non-contingent, so you have a non-contingent offer, pays off their existing mortgage with no required payments. Loan's not due for 12 months, so you don't have fears. Most standard bridge loans are due within 3 to 4 months. So there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with a standard bridge, because if you don't sell the house fast enough, it's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And then you also get to hold back some money from the cross bridge that allows you to, get fresh paint, carpet into the house and whatever you want.
Wow. Yeah, I can see how that'd be a huge advantage.
Yeah. Do you have a flyer for that?
I do.
Yeah.
I'll see you at my lunch and learn on Tuesday.
Okay, yeah. Send me that invite and email me the flyer. That's great.
The part that I love about it the most is that you're going to be able to qualify more people for it than you would with a regular bridge loan.
That's true.
That's great.
All right, so if someone's listening to this, an agent, and they're like, I've never heard of this, or my lender doesn't offer it, how do they get in touch with you, Karl?
Send me a text message and just say bridge 804-665-4344.
All right, say that another time. 804
804-665-4344.
All right, and just say bridge. I thought you were gonna I didn't think you were gonna go with bridge loans. I thought you were gonna just tell people to increase their bench press.
That might help too. You just intimidate them into signing.
Nick, what about you?
For me, I'm really bullish on net sheets, right? Sending sellers. So if you're an agent, you've been in the business for a few years or even 1 year, and you've closed some buyers, right? They're now homeowners, so they should be tagged in your database as homeowners or sellers, whatever you decide to tag them. But most likely they have some equity, right? They bought a house for 500,000, maybe now it's worth 525 or 565 or 700,000, and you probably are like waiting for them to list, right? And you might send the bridge loan document that Carl sent, or you might send, give them a phone call, like James said. Those are all great things. What we're doing is just telling people what their net proceeds are. So I tell everyone, I was like, what buyers want to do is they want to look at homes, right? That's what buyers want to do. And what sellers want to understand is they want to know what their home is worth. And so what we do is we're doing this right now. We have a listing coming up because of it. Well, two listings coming up because of it. We send a CMA, just cold, hey, hey Dan, you bought your house for, $500,000 in 2019. It's now worth $1 million. Congratulations. Your house has grown 100%. You have a ton of equity, great investment, blah, blah, blah. What's your estimated loan balance so I can send you a net sheet, right? And so we wait a day for them to respond to that email. If they don't respond, we follow up with a text and hey, did you see your CMA I sent you? You're way up. You got so much equity. Celebrate with them in the text. You say, hey, what's your estimated loan balance? I'm going to send you a net sheet. And then the second touch is, well, I guess that's the second touch. The third touch is, Dan tells me his house is now worth, he has $300,000 loan balance. Let's just, for quick math, it's going to cost him, $100,000 to sell, right? And now we send, hey, here's your estimated net proceeds. And when we send the net proceeds, we also use a percentage. Hey, you're up X amount. Here are your net proceeds. And and based on the client, right, you can say, hey, you have $100,000 of equity. You can buy a house up to $1 million. No, sorry, you could buy a house up to $500,000 with 20% down, right? I have a client right now who has $200,000 of equity. He's never going to buy a $2 million house, right? So I can't tell him like, hey, you can put 10% on 2 million. So we say, hey, you can buy a house with 20% down and you have a ton of money left over to bank or invest in other places or invest in real estate. So I think you got to tell people like how much cash they're really sitting on, right? And make it a real number. And then talk to them about what they can do with that money. And they'll start to move around. And what we've done now is we figured out from the listings that we've signed because of that. At what engagement step did people start to really engage? And it was like step 9 is when we got the like, okay, I want to sell my house, right? At like touch 9. So now I've created an action plan, kind of based on Kareem's suggestion the other day, uh, helping us get to 9 faster. So tell people how much money they are sitting on, and they might want to move.
Yeah, I think the net sheet makes you look like more of a professional as well. And it's probably something that agents as a whole did a lot more, my first year in real estate, like 12, 13 years ago. And I think a lot of agents now don't do it, never have done it. And, it's like you get your real estate license and make a couple Instagram videos and, you know, you only know the 6% or the 5%, whatever you charge, right? And I think it's something that makes you look professional, and you only have to really create it once in like a Google sheet. I've got one in a Google sheet, and then um yeah, I've got a couple different versions actually because the tax rates are different in DC than Virginia and Maryland, right? So there's if you're in multiple states, maybe you've got to make a couple different versions of it, but you can basically make it once and then, plug in the loan balance, the sales price, and it everything pretty much should fall in place.
Well, the cool thing is that everyone bought a house and they have a home anniversary. So just like you have a birthday, everyone has a home anniversary. So if you're tracking that, you can, we send out a happy house anniversary email and a handwritten note card also. But the email can be like, hey, I'm going to do a CMA for you, or I'm going to do a net sheet for you, right? So you have a reason to reach out to all of your, previous buyers who are now homeowners on their house anniversary. You just celebrate with them and tell them how much money they made and they've made since they bought it. And we use RPR for the CMA, and we send this like cold, right? We're not telling them we're going to send them a CMA. We just send the CMA because that gives us the leverage to ask for the net sheet. And then, but we partnered with our title company. We just have their software. We got like a login, and so we just plug in addresses there, so it's even more accurate than it would be um, if I'm just pulling the data from the MLS.
Yeah. All right. Mine is it's kind of mentioned already, but I've got a different twist on it. So James said call more people. One of his examples was expireds. And every day the list of expireds with the contact data, with all the data you need, it comes out on platforms like RedX or Vulcan 7. And everyone every morning from like 8 to 10 is they're fighting over those new expireds, right? There's you're not the only one calling them. Um, However, I think there's a lot of times you can go back a year or 2 years, right? So pull the list of homes that expired a year ago or 2 years ago and reach out to those people, right? Because they're at one point they wanted to sell their home, they were willing to pay an agent, and they didn't. And guess what? It's a year later, it's 2 years later. They're still sitting there with most likely the same pain point, right? Most people, if they're looking to sell their home, there's something about it they don't like, location, size, features, condition, right? They're still sitting with those pain points. So call them up, find out what those pain points are, and ask them if they'd be willing to sell at the right price, right? So call the older expireds as well. And if you kind of take a little bit of a step back here, what we've been talking about mostly today, right? These are tips to get more clients overall, but we've really been focused on listings, right? One of the themes that I want to continue to hammer on this show is to be a listing agent. I was, talking to one of my mentors. It's also my sponsor at EXP, Tim, Julie Harris, the other day. They brought up this amazing point that nobody has to buy, right? Nobody has to buy a home. Even if they're relocating and moving in, they don't have to buy. They can always rent a place, right? That first time home buyer, they can stay renting for a really long time, right? Or living in mom's basement for a really long time. No one has to buy. But most of your seller clients are in some sort of a situation, whether it be family life, job, work, financial, where they have to sell, right? So, if you get more conversations with sellers, you're going to be spending more time with people that have to take action as opposed to people that would prefer to or might like to.
And I think that I have this conversation with some of my lenders where, because obviously the lender business is the buyer business, and I like to target sellers, right? And I'm like, well, sellers have to go buy something else too, whether that's they're moving up or they're downsizing. And so I think that it's great to go get buyer business, and the reality is it's just like easier to have like a buyer conversation, right? It's easier to be like, oh, you don't own a home, you should buy a new one, right? Or you should buy one. It's harder to identify sellers unless you're kind of picking up the phone. And I mean, just like as you're out and about in your day to day. But every seller is going to buy. And so for me, Carl picks on me because I don't sell $1 million houses, right? But it's like, well, I don't sell $1 million house, but I have clients right now who are listing a 450 next week, and then they're buying at 600,000. So I'm going to get my million there, right? And so every seller needs to buy, and so you have those double transactions. And if it's a downsizer who lives in Fredericksburg, right, and they decided to move to Florida, like you're gonna make money on the referral fee if you connect them with an agent in Florida. And so definitely have those listing conversations, and remember they're buyers too.
Yeah, they're definitely in most cases a buyer, either with you or someone you can refer them to. So let's jump to some news. I've got three different articles I want to share today, right? The first two might make you a little pessimistic. I think the third one though should make you optimistic. So let's dive in here to some news, right? First thing we saw, home buyers are canceling sales contracts at the highest rate ever, right? So these were December contracts. We saw more cancellations. So 40,000. This is US wide. Uh, Purchase agreements were canceled in December. That's about 16.3% of the homes that went under contract. So this is coming from Redfin's data, which goes back to 2017. That's the highest amount ever, including the March 2020 when the shutdowns and COVID and all that were happening. So article says high housing costs and rising inventory have made them more selective. Sellers are outnumbering buyers. Buyers have more options. Um, Fewer resales. Same article says, yeah, fewer home resales in 2024. Um, or no, in 2025, it was fewer home resales than even 2024, which was the lowest on record going back to 1995. So, uh, what's your guys' take on all that?
So for me, my take on this is for sellers, right? Like um, you really have to get your house ready for the market. So what I think is happening is, and what I've been telling my sellers as they get their home prepared is that, rates are where they are, right? We're not going to call them high or low anymore. They're, 6.5%, right? It's just, they've been there for a few years now. Let's stop calling them high, right? And so the average person, let's say you're buying a $500,000 house. I mean, your mortgage is closer to that $4,000 mark, if I'm correct, Carl, right? And so if you're making 120, right? Let's say you're double income, you're making $200,000 in a household or 150. That's a lot of money of the budget, right? And so those buyers, they don't have the additional cash after they buy their house and put the money down and buy furniture to like upgrade the kitchen, upgrade the bathrooms, do the paint, etc. But they will pay a premium for homes that are already finished because they're done, right? And they don't have to worry about that. So I think when we were in the low rate environment, and people had a little more cash and the economy was better, people were like, oh, we can budget for this and that. But now I think everyone is just living a little bit tighter, financially than they were previously month to month. And so they can't spend, $10,000 painting an entire house when they first move in because you liked the light blue paint, right? So I would imagine that the homes that are falling out of contract have home inspection issues, and cosmetically they're not that dope, and buyers cannot afford to renovate after the fact as easily as they could have before.
Yeah, Carl, were you seeing that as well? I know you probably deal with more under contract homes than all of us.
I wouldn't say that it was the highest that
Yeah.
I've ever seen, but the couple that I had that terminated, it was because the not to blame the buyer's agent, but usually the buyer's agent is the one that really digs in behind the why with the client. And that I feel like that's where there was missed opportunity. If they really got behind the why, then they would have realized that that house wasn't the right fit before they wrote the offer.
That's true too.
All right. Well, next article here. It's not letting me share this one, but I'll just read the headline. Housing market swinging towards buyers. Nearly two-thirds of home buyers last year purchased at a discount in compared to the original list price, which was the highest proportion since 2019. So just looking at their chart, 62% were purchased below list price, 15% at list price, and then still 23% above list price.
So I would argue that these two news headlines are related. Um, 2/3 of homes were bought at a discount. And then the previous one was contracts falling through. I think they're both stemming from sellers either not having realistic expectations or financially not being able to uh, make the numbers work. and the contracts falling out for that reason. That's my take on these two.
Well, it's definitely a return to a more normal market where, you don't just list a home and get a bidding war right away all the time, although that happened, almost 1 out of 4 times last year, right? So, location, pricing, condition, how you market the home, still matters, right? But yeah, it's a normal market. Like real estate agents, you're gonna have to do the work that a real estate agent normally has to do, like negotiating and setting the proper expectations. So, get ready to do some normal work.
I think this is a time where you have to do a good job explaining to your seller what the environment is, and getting pricing correct, like right away. So you're not dealing with the price reduction because buyers still feel like homes that have been on the market for a long time, there's something like wrong with them. They kind of still feel like things should sell in 5 days, even though that's not happening anymore. And then you definitely want to be the cream of the crop property, right? Because if you're the cream of the crop, everyone's gonna like your house, and you get to sell for a little higher. Um, and then, if not, you find some buyers who are willing to do a little bit of work. So, like you said, Dan, I think it is just like a balanced market. Um, and for some reason, what, 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago at this point, there was a pandemic, and people still think we're living there.
Yeah, well, let's move on here. This article here, I think, should bring you some optimism in what's going to happen with the real estate market. So, I think, uh, if you're trying to predict where the best place to park your investing is, right? Like, look at the people that have lots of money because they hire lots of smart people to manage it for them. And family offices is just that, right? These are people that typically have liquid net worths of tens of millions of dollars, and they think inflation's coming. You see here, family offices brace for higher inflation with real estate and alternative investments. So, more than 60% of US family offices cited interest rates and inflation as the top risk, right? They also got geopolitical risk as well. So, to protect their portfolios, many family offices are turning to real estate and alternative investments, especially private equity, hedge funds. According to this survey, yeah, 64% cited interest rate, 61 inflations as their biggest concern. And, right here, to protect their portfolio, many family offices, hedge funds, private equity are turning to real estate. All right. So they think real estate is a hedge for inflation, which means, you know, they think the dollar is going to get weaker, the cost of everything's going to go up, and real estate is a great way to do that, especially if you're locked in, right? If you have a little bit of smart leverage with it, you're going to get wealthier as the dollar weakens.
I got a funny thing to say. I think it's you know, people like to hate the rich because they got rich, and they're wealthy, right? But they're giving you the game plan, right? They can execute at a higher scale. So someone that's worth tens of millions of dollars can buy, the Apple stock. They can buy 10,000 stock, right? Like they can buy a big house and rent it out. But like you can also do that at the lower level. So if the wealthy are like, hey, we're investing in real estate, then the people that aren't wealthy yet and want to get wealthy, right? They should go buy real estate also, So do as the wealthy do, at the scale you're able to do it at, and win later.
I think this piggybacks perfectly off of the last two articles, Dan, because we saw, we had elevated interest rates for a few years, and overall demand didn't really change, right? Like we're just now talking about over these last, this last quarter or so, seeing it really turning from a seller's market to a buyer's market, where sellers are going to have to be more flexible and give up more. And funds like that, we're not going to have like a major pullback, but if there is a little, there's some price adjustments now. I think the timing is very, uh, it's more than coincidental that they're going to take advantage of the fact that they can likely come in, and get a little bit off on whatever homes they're investing in. Um, to have a good entry position in whatever those investments are.
That was way more valuable commentary, Karl.
Well, I think there can always be cycles, right? Like you could have a down year or two, but I think long term, if you're looking out 10 years or 20 years, there is probably a lot of momentum for home prices, for real estate prices, right? We've been chronically underbuilding in our country the amount of homes we need, you know, to buy and to rent, like for decades, right? Like well, in the last 10 or 15 years, we built fewer homes in any decade in the US going back to the World War II era. And our population's much greater. So like they're not, we don't have the industrial capacity to build the amount of homes we need. So there's definitely a supply constraint. You've got a huge baby boomer generation that's going to pass on trillions of dollars of wealth to their kids, right? To their heirs. So now you've got more money that can come into new housing. And then at the same time, we've got humongous national debt. Like the interest on our national debt right now is over $1 trillion a year. So we're spending more as a government at the national level, at least, on interest on the debt than we are on our entire defense budget. Right. So, they can't tax their way out of the debt, right? That's just politically impossible to do. They can't cut their way out of the debt because that's also politically impossible to do. Uh, Defaulting would just be
Catastrophic.
chaotic. They would never do it, right? It would be catastrophic. So the fourth option, I saw this in, Ray Dalio talking about this the other day. If you have a huge debt, well, one of the ways out of it is to devalue it. If you devalue the currency that the debt is held in, that makes the debt less, right? So government is going to be highly incentivized to keep up with the inflation that these family offices are concerned about, through the printing press. So I think you combine all of these factors. I think over the next 10 to 20 years, housing prices will look a lot more expensive than they are today. So certainly good for an investment. And even what's more certain is like you're always going to need a place to live. And one of my professors at Georgetown used to say like everybody has a short position in living, right? Like everybody has to pay money monthly for a place to live. And if how do you counterbalance a short position? Well, you get a long position, right? So if you buy your own home, you're at least locking in most of your cost of living costs, not all, right? Maintenance costs could go up, but you're at least somewhat locking in the price of the structure and the land itself. So I think long term, right, prices are going to go up. If you're listening to this, you should definitely invest. But also, if you're, real estate agents, you should be bullish. You should be optimistic, because prices are going to go up over the long run. Any more thoughts, guys? Panelists?
I mean, maybe we should break down why real estate is such a good inflation hedge. It's because you've got a loan that doesn't inflate, right? The loan balance doesn't inflate, and if you have a fixed rate, then your loan costs are going to pretty much stay the same. And in most cases, you can get a bigger loan. If you're investing in stocks, those companies have debt, right? But it's like 25%, around 12 to 25% of the value of those companies. Whereas real estate, you're getting a loan that's like 75 to like 95% of the value of the home. So you can just get more debt. And as inflation happens, the debt stays here and your property value goes up here. So just to kind of break down the mechanics of why that is. Karl, I'm curious, as we're talking about inflation and how rates impact that and governments, have you seen a big change in the last week or so in rates with the announcement of the Fed chair?
It's been in a very narrow range. So, I mean, we've just been fluctuating between like 0.1% over the last 30, 45 days. I'll talk to you off the call about my opinions on the new Fed chair and how it really means nothing. And what really means something is what happens with Jerome Powell. Does he stay or does he go?
Yeah, that could be interesting. Like historically, the departing chairman has left, but Trump's been trying to stick it to him. So I think he may do something that hasn't happened in 50, 60 years and stay on and try to influence the other 11 people that vote. So who knows? But I do know this: real estate will get more expensive. Real estate agents, more deals are coming at higher price points. So go out there, have conversations, right? Be a professional. Do your net sheets for sellers. Understand loan products. Understand bridge loans, right? Cross-collateralized. Can't even say that. Cross-collateralized bridge loans, right? Become a professional. Have more conversations and focus on getting listings. This has been a great panel, guys. If you're out there listening, please hit that subscribe button, tap 5 stars. You're only allowed to give us 5 stars. Share this with other agents, and we will see you next time.
You've been listening to HyperFast Agent Growth Show with Karl Svendsen and Dan Lesniak. Real strategies, real results, real estate done differently. If you love this episode, tap subscribe and share with another agent who's ready to grow.